everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're having a wonderful day today. I don't know what day this is going up, but hopefully it's a Friday so that you can enjoy a glass of wine with me as we do this juicy Q&A. If it's not a Friday, well, still break out the wine, okay? I wanted to say a big thank you to Bright Cellars for sponsoring this video and providing the wine for this juicy Q&A. I did ask you guys on Instagram if you had any juicy questions for me, and I love when YouTubers or podcasters or Instagrammers or whatever do a juicy Q&A because really like juicy means something different to everybody, and thankfully I didn't get a ton of like sexual questions. I feel like everybody that I watch, they get a ton of sexual questions, which is funny and like so entertaining, but it's kind of cringy to think about me doing that when like my parents and my grandparents and like lots of people who know me watch my channel. So thank you guys for at least leaving that stuff out. But I do have a lot of super good questions from you guys. So I'm stoked to get this started. It's been a long day. I spent the morning outside, you know, trimming up the trees because actually the delivery drivers, they don't want to drive down my driveway anymore because there's so many trees blocking the way. So I had to trim some trees on our rickety ladder and I was very scared. So, okay, now that that's all over, I'm ready to just relax and answer some questions. So let's look at our wine selections from Bright Cellars. I got 4 bottles of wine in their wine subscription box. It is a custom wine subscription box where you take a 30-second quiz and you get matched with wines that are perfect for you. And it's a system where you can give feedback about if you liked the wine or not. And then as you keep giving feedback, their algorithm is better able to pair you with wines that you would like. So first we have Humdrum, which I'm interested to see what that one is. It's a Pinot Noir. Then we have Jumble Sail. This is a Syrah, so this one should be pretty sweet. I think I'm kind of going towards a sweet one. I like sweet wine in general. Like I was really excited about this because I'm not really a wine person in general, but I really want to be. I'm like an aspirational wine person, you know? Okay, we have Folk and Fable, which is a red blend. Red blends are always very fun. I'm talking about this as if like I drink wine. I used to work at a wine bar, so I'm really good at schmoozing wine and like getting people intrigued. Red blends were always like a classic choice for someone who like really isn't into wine. And then we have, what is this? Voyage dans le Vent, French. I think that I'm gonna try this one. I think that this is red. I'm pretty sure it's red, but anyway. So as I was opening up the packaging to get to my wine, I was so excited to see, wait, hold on. I think that this is Twist Off as well. I brought my wine opener, but I think this is Twist Off. It is! Amazing. It smells good. I think I have a ring of wine on my... Okay, anyway, what I was really impressed by was the zero plastic packaging. So it is super sustainable packaging on the box. It was just a bunch of cardboard. I'll put in some clips so that you can see what it looked like. It looked really nice as I was opening it and everything. And also, there are these individual cards where you can see information on everything that you got. So I can look at these. They're like playing cards. I love it. I love it. What a lovely sound. Okay, so we're supposed to swish it around. Smell it. It smells like red wine. That's really good. I like that. Oh my gosh, I was so afraid of red wine for so long, but I really like that. It feels like it's not dry or anything, so it feels like it just is a nice starter red wine if you want to get into red wine. So if you are interested in checking out Bright Cellars, I highly recommend. This is such a fun experience. You can head to the link down in the description box below to get 50% off your first 6-bottle box, and that also includes free shipping. So cheers to free shipping, you guys. But you can still see me. Oh my gosh, I'm already having so much fun. Okay, let's get to these questions. What do you say? The first question, these are not in any particular order. I just grabbed a few that I liked. So the first one is, why are you moving towards outside plants? And the answer is, I have 7 acres of land. I have so much space to cultivate. It would feel like a waste if I didn't. So my channel is probably going to be like 40% outdoors, 60% indoors, or maybe 30% outdoors, 70% indoors. I'm not exactly sure. I kind of just want to see where my heart goes. But right now, after the situation with the garden, now that it's done, my heart is back indoors and like with my houseplants, like I just love them so much. And I was talking on Instagram, I think it was Instagram the other day, how I just like love my houseplants because they are so familiar to me. And when I'm starting something new, like outdoor gardening where I know basically nothing, it's comforting to come back inside and like have a couple wins where like I know what I'm doing in here, whereas outside like I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing. So I'm moving towards it because it's kind of like a natural step in my life. I would have been doing this whether I had a YouTube channel or not, because I want to create a beautiful space around me, and my zone is just like really good for growing stuff. So that's why. What is your worst bad habit? This is a very good question. I have a bad habit. Okay, of course, like procrastination like always sucks. Like being a procrastinator is not fun for anybody, but let's see. I think that I like self-sabotage with my like time stuff, because I just like love laying in bed and like I love like making myself a schedule, but I'm not very good at sticking to it. You know what I mean? Like I like having structure, but like forcing myself to stick to structure that I create for myself is really hard, which is why like being self-employed is an interesting choice for me, because like I really need other people to keep me going with the structure that I set up for myself, or the structure that they set up for me. So when I actually had the chance to sign on with a management company, I was really stoked, because that gives me a lot of like consistency. Like it gives me, number one, it gives me like coworkers. It gives me obviously outreach to brands like Bright Sellers, and I don't know, just like a bunch of stuff like that. It helps me stay on track, because though I crave structure, I have a hard time sticking to it. So I think that's my worst bad habit for sure. Okay, who is my celebrity crush? And Dan's celebrity crush, and also female celebrity you'd almost switch teams for. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Okay, number one, Wonder Woman. Like I can answer this so quickly. Wonder Woman, I saw her in theaters. I saw the movie in theaters with Daniel, and I was like, this woman right here, she's it. So Wonder Woman for sure. I don't know what it is about her. I just like love the vibe. And then my male celebrity crush, I think, I had a big crush on Andy Samberg for a long time because he's so goofy. And that is like, makes so much sense for me, because the moment that I strayed away from dating the Andy Sambergs of the world, the moment my life got a little bit weird, like kind of through college. So yeah, I like silly guys. I like laughing, and definitely like super lucked out with Daniel because he's super goofy. But like as far as like other men, I don't know. This question has always been hard for me to answer because I don't really think about celebrities like that. But like obviously Harry Styles. And then Dan's celebrity crush. Let's ask him. We have some walkie-talkies because he's still down with his concussion, and I was getting sick of like running up and down the stairs. Daniel, do you copy?
What'd you say?
Hey, if you had to choose a celebrity crush, who would it be?
Like, are we talking as of right now, or like back in the day growing up?
Whichever comes faster to you.
Well, I guess growing up it was Angelina Jolie.
Because of Tomb Raider?
No.
Yes. Okay, tell us about your first kiss story. This is funny. So my first kiss was in 7th grade. I think I was like, how old are you in 7th grade? Like 12 or 13 or something. And he was older than me. He was an 8th grader, and for some reason he liked me. I still don't really know why, but we dated for a little bit. And then all of a sudden we like broke up. His friend told me that we broke up, and then like the next day I saw him holding hands with somebody else. It was very strange, but then we reconnected in high school after a different breakup that I went through. I think it was after that because I was like super heartbroken and like not in the place to be dating. But I think we hung out a few times in high school and like I wasn't into it, but he's still a nice guy. Anyway, so the story is, well, first of all, I think it was on Valentine's Day in 7th grade. He got me this little pearl necklace. He gave it to me and then he gave me a kiss, but it was just like a quick little kiss. And then later that night, me and my friend, our parents were like very strict growing up with boys especially. So if they would have known that I snuck off to see a movie with a boy, I would have been in serious trouble. I think that I've told them now, but if not, hey mom, I did that. I went to the movies with my friend Hannah and her mom dropped us off. Like I don't know why they believed us. Like maybe they didn't, but they were just saying, I don't know. Anyway, they dropped us off at the movies and we met up with him and it was just my friend Hannah, me and him. And we went to see a horror movie, which is like so cringy. I think it was like The Unborn or something. There was like 2 horror movies that had basically the same name that came out around the same time. So it was one of those. And we started kissing. Like he did like the arm thing and like holding my hand, like, you know, and then we started kissing and that was maybe like halfway through the movie. And we did not stop kissing until the lights turned back on in the movie theater, which is so embarrassing. And to make matters worse, the whole time we were kissing, I was like freaking out. So I went and I like grabbed my friend Hannah's hand and I was holding her hand, like squeezing it as I was kissing this guy. It was my first kiss with tongue and it was, looking back, it wasn't amazing. And like, why were we kissing for like 45 minutes? I'll never understand like the desperation of a 13-year-old girl kissing a boy, ever. Okay, next question. What's a plant that you don't understand why people like it? There's so many, but like, pink princesses, come on. It's such an obvious answer. But like, okay, you know people who are like really obsessed with like Dracaena and like Sansevieria? I mean, it's the same thing now, but you know the difference between the two things. I don't understand why people are like obsessed with them. I think they're okay, but like they're not that cool. Like I think I have 3 in my collection currently and they're just like not that cool. Like I'm not gonna talk about them because they're just so boring. They're nice space fillers, but other than that, I don't understand why anyone would be obsessed with them. I'm just being honest. The next question is worst/weirdest date. To be honest, I don't really remember ever having like a really terrible date. I did have a few like hangouts with people where it got kind of weird, but like nothing that comes to mind that's like movie cringe. You know what I mean? Like bad date, like you step in poop and then you fall on your face or he's a jerk. Like I don't really remember having having dates like that, but I have had dates with people who like turned out to be really creepy and were like very forceful with what they wanted, if you know what I mean. I didn't really enjoy dating, if I'm honest. I liked flirting a lot, but I didn't really like dating. So what was your college experience like? Did you party a lot? Let me just paint a picture for you, okay? So in high school, I did not really care about school. I was not a stellar student by any means. Like I had my subjects that I liked. Typically, like if it wasn't English or social studies or like an elective, I didn't really care. So I got D's and C's in math and science and stuff. So going into college, I think I had not that great of a GPA, like maybe like a 2.5 or something out of high school. And then in college, I kind of realized like, okay, now I'm pretty much only focusing on the subjects that I want. So I got an English degree. So I was doing a lot of reading and writing and more reading and writing. So just stuff like that. And I was taking like humanity classes, like sociology and psychology, and I just loved it. It was so much fun. I really struggled through 2 years of math in college because I took remedial classes in college because I was so bad at it. I even struggle to say I was so bad at it. I feel like my brain is just not wired for that type of thing, and I feel like it needs to be normalized that not everybody's brain is wired for math and science, and not everybody's brain is wired for reading and writing. You know, there's like two very different functions of the brain, and some people just happen to be better than others at either one. In college, I really cared about school and I wanted to do well. And I ended college with a really good GPA, and no need to throw out numbers, but like it was pretty good. I was super focused on my studies. I was also involved in a Christian outreach ministry, so I put a lot of my extra time into that. And somebody actually asked me a question about my religion and stuff like that later, and I will answer that later. I had a lot of things that like kept me on track, so I didn't really do any sort of partying. I did go to a few frat parties. There was one homecoming where I went to a frat party and it was so much fun. I actually did like swing dancing with one of the alums. If you listen to my podcast, you've heard that story, but I just like, I don't know, I just wasn't the type of person that would go to those things. And that's not saying like, oh, I was better. Like, girls support girls always. If you want to do that, you can totally do that, but it just wasn't my scene. And yeah, I just didn't really find myself partying a ton. When I turned 21, I did go out to bars a lot. Like over the weekends, I'd go dancing and stuff. And that's actually how I met my husband. We met at a live music bar. So yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed college for a lot of reasons, but I was definitely more focused on school than like anything else. And I'm really glad that I was, because I keep toying with the idea of going back to school and like getting a master's degree or even a doctorate someday. But I don't know. I feel pretty satisfied with how I performed in undergrad that I don't know if I even want to or even need to, because I feel like I really worked super hard and it paid off. So I don't know, we'll just have to see later. But I lived with 5 of my best friends, basically all of college. I lived at home for 1 year and then I lived with 5 of my best friends, and that was amazing. Everybody always thinks that that would have been like the worst thing ever to live with 5 girls, but our house was pretty big and I didn't share a room for most of it. I shared a room for 1 year of that, and my roommate and I got along so well. It wasn't, sorry, camera ran out of memory, had to delete some stuff. But anyway, yeah, my roommate and I got along so well, it wasn't even a big deal. So if you are in college, live it up, enjoy it. Don't forget that you're there for school, but also just freaking enjoy it and hang out with your friends and stay up late and do what you want to do. Okay, next question. What's the most illegal thing you've done? Well, I've never done drugs or anything like that. Never smoked marijuana. Somebody asked if I've ever done that. I have not. I don't have any feelings against it. I just am not really interested, to be honest. But I think the most illegal thing I've ever done is probably like breaking and entering when I was a teenager. Which sounds so bad, but my friend and I used to we used to like hop a wall into this big water tower by our houses. It was like the halfway point between our houses, and we would climb up over the wall and into the water tower area and like sit in there. I really don't know what we did in there. We literally just hung out. I don't think that there was any point to it other than like feeling a rush of doing something bad. Can you talk about your teaching experience? Okay, yes, I will tell you a little bit about my teaching experience. Okay, so straight out of high school, no, not high school, straight out of college, well, first of all, I'm doing a lot of backtracking here. I went to college for English literature with the hope of being a high school English teacher. That was what I wanted to be since I was in high school, because I had amazing relationships with my high school English teachers, and I feel like if you want to be a teacher, you've probably had a great experience with a teacher and you want to replicate that for somebody else. Like usually that's why people want to be teachers. And so yeah, that was my motivation through college. That's what I wanted to do. After I got out of college, I didn't really have a distinctive plan of how I was going to get there. I thought that perhaps I'd get a master's in education or something like that. At the time that I graduated, there was a really big teacher shortage in Arizona, so they were pretty much certifying anyone with a degree to be a teacher. And I met somebody who was I was selling a chair on Facebook Marketplace, or maybe even Craigslist. She just started talking to me and she told me she was a teacher, and I was like, oh, I really admire you for that. I know that I want to be a teacher someday. And then she was like, oh, what's your degree in? She just started asking me questions, and that's how I got an interview at the school that I taught at. It was a middle school. It was a 6 through 8. So I taught 6th grade language arts and social studies. But yeah, it was a fun year. It was probably one of the hardest years of my life ever for a lot of reasons, mostly because I was fresh out of college and just like thrown into this thing. I was hired, I think, a week before school started. So when most of my peers, even if they were hired right out of college, they knew that this was gonna be their job for like a couple months. They had a lot of time to prepare. And thankfully, one of my roommates was still in town because like once we graduated, everybody left. So one of my roommates was still in town, so she was able to help me set up my classroom, and I had a week to become a teacher and learn how to do everything, and it was really stressful, and I was doing a lot of learning as I went. And yeah, what I realized is I just enjoyed talking to the kids so much more than I enjoyed being their teacher. And like it's cool to be a teacher and like have that role in their lives, but it was so much better when like they came to hang out with me at lunch, or we had this like study hall class and sometimes we would just talk about life. I had a few students specifically who I miss so much, and they just graduated from 8th grade, I think, and I just miss them a lot. There was a lot of bad, but there's also a lot of good. I don't think that I'll ever go back to that. I mean, maybe I would teach older kids or maybe even college. That's what I was thinking I'd go back to school for, is to teach college, like at like a community college or something. But I don't know. I'm doing YouTube right now, so that's kind of where I am. That's my little teacher story. Hope you enjoyed. Okay, do you have any secret beef with other influencers? Not necessarily just plant people. No names, of course. Thank you for the no names. Honestly, I can't think of any beef. I can't think of anything. I mean, I never really was a person who like had beef with anybody ever. I can't think of anything. I know that's sort of disappointing. There's people that I'm not like the biggest fan of, as per usual. You know, we talked about this in a Potted Together YouTube video. There's definitely people that I like probably wouldn't be friends with in person, but I mean, that doesn't really mean much because I've never met them in person, so maybe I would like them in person, but online I don't like them. But there's gonna be people in the world that you don't like want to be best friends with, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Because we're all adults. And as Adam said in that video, I respect the hustle. So I respect like all fellow influencers and YouTubers, unless they're being like completely ridiculous. And of course I don't respect them for that. But you know, most people have good hearts and are in it for the right reasons. And you can tell when people are, you know, when they have created a genuine community. I think it's really sweet. And even if I don't personally like them, I'm happy that they have that. Most embarrassing moments. See, these types of questions are so hard because as soon as it gets asked, I lose every embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. But embarrassing things happen to me all the time, and I'm one of those people who will think about it over and over and over again, like constantly, and it's so cringe. But honestly, I can't think of anything, but if I do, I'll let you know. There's been a lot of things, but it's escaping me right now. Next question, how do you cope with anxiety and Daniel traveling for work a lot? Okay, so some people ask what Daniel does for work. I just don't really want to share that, not for any specific reason, but just to respect his privacy, because like I'm choosing to have my life online and he hasn't necessarily chosen that. So like if he wants to like say in a video what he does, then I'm sure he will, but he hasn't yet, so I'm not gonna push it. And like it's really not that cool or interesting, but he does happen to travel sometimes. I never say when he's gone until he's actually back. Like I don't even mention it because he's left before for like months at a time, and I doubt that anybody even noticed because he's not really a big figure on my channel. Like we all know that I'm married and I love him, but yeah, this isn't a family channel like with my husband, so I don't want people knowing that I'm home alone, and like, I don't know. I just feel like it's better off to not share that type of stuff about your life online. I know that some people do, and like more power to them, but I just don't feel comfortable sharing that stuff. I think it's better to have boundaries when it comes to sharing that kind of stuff online, especially when you have a following, because I don't know, there's 50,000 something of you guys, and in my mind, like we're all like healthy people who are just living their lives and like plants, but there could be one person who's like a total creep and is just looking for an opportunity. You know what I mean? So you gotta be careful. Okay, next question. Any new plants on your wish list? Yes, I do have. Ooh, that's really good. I'm gonna have some more. But yeah, I do have a plant on my wish list. It's the Anthurium vinifolium. I think that's what it is. I've only ever seen the word. I've never said it out loud. That's probably my first time ever saying it out loud, but yeah, that plant is very intriguing and I think that I would like to have that. I think it would look really good on this wall here, like cascading down as a hanging plant. So definitely that one. But other than that, I don't really have a ton of wish list plants because I feel pretty satisfied. I definitely could go plant shopping. Like I've been I've been tempted to just go plant shopping and like buy some stuff because why not? But I don't really have the space for it if I'm honest with myself. So I'm kind of like putting that off. Although I'd really like to. I could make more space, like make more shelves and like hang them up. But I'm just kind of pausing because I've been doing a lot of stuff outside and that's a bit overwhelming in my mind. Do you like pulpy juice? Yes, I do. I always get orange juice with pulp, which is super delicious. I love it. And okay, I actually did buy orange juice the other day and it had too much pulp. Like I like some pulp. Like, you know, the packaging says like a little bit of pulp or like some pulp. I like that, but I don't like feeling like I need to chew on my juice. You know what I mean?
Becca,
Oh. Yeah?
I need you to finish The Mandalorian so we can finish it together.
Okay, but we're currently watching a show together, so after that, yes.
Okay, just put it on your list.
What's your religious background? Are you still spiritual? All right, so the thing is, it's complicated. I think these things are always very complicated. I grew up like in an evangelical Christian church and I'm definitely not that anymore. And like the older I get, the more I realize like how much trauma that caused in my life for so many reasons, like so many reasons. I just read a book, it's called Pure, and it's about purity culture and how that has like affected an entire generation of people, like not just girls, but also boys. I don't know, it's something that I think about a lot of the time. But right now I would say that I'm more spiritual. I do pray and I believe in a higher power. I just don't know if it like aligns as much with what I grew up with. I'm still kind of like figuring it out and kind of letting myself be in that in between and just kind of figure it out for what I think. But yeah, it's kind of a complicated situation and it's a lot to share online, something like that. So I don't know, in the interest of not sharing too much and not being too vague, that's my answer. Okay, did you ever get written up in school? What's the worst thing you ever did in school? Okay, I did get written up in school, but only in middle school. Middle school was my rebellious stage. That's when I was definitely like not a good kid. I mean, for the standards of, like I said, growing up in evangelical Christian church. Okay, so I wasn't really like bad in like the sense of everything, I don't know. So basically what I would get in trouble with was dress code. I always got in trouble with dress code and it always felt so icky to me that like especially my male teachers would dress code me like for my shorts being too short or something like that, because to me it was like, why are you looking like you're a grown man and I'm 13 and my shorts are, I don't know, half an inch too short? Like, why did you notice that? You know what I mean? It's just things like that. Like, that also ties in with purity culture weirdness. Dress code is such a hard thing because it's difficult to shop for clothes that are allowed, and it always bothered me that the girls had such a strict dress code when the boys could really wear whatever they want except for like wife beaters. It made me really upset. So I really didn't care about getting in trouble for that. I think that I got a few referrals because the dress code violations just like stacked up. And obviously my parents didn't really care that much either because they were buying me my clothes and nothing I wore was inappropriate. Like one time I got dress coded for having too much cleavage. You can imagine what 13-year-old me was rocking with, and it wasn't much. So a bit silly and extreme. But that's probably the worst thing that I ever did in school. Other than that, behavior-wise, I was pretty good. Like I liked to hang out with my teachers and I was in student council. You know, I really cared about being a good kid, but grades weren't really a super big priority. Okay, last question that I'm going to answer because I think this video is very long, but I just love hanging out with you guys. This has been really fun, and this wine. Cheers again. Okay, the question is, hot take on Midwest culture. This is a very interesting question because You know, you don't think that the cultures between states can really change too much until you go from a place like Arizona to Missouri. And like, I feel like, yeah. Okay, so when Daniel and I were dating, we would visit his hometown in Iowa, like, I don't know, relatively often, like maybe like once a year, twice a year type of thing. When I went out there, sometimes like the kids or like people in the store would like look at my clothes and like think that it was weird or like make comments like, oh, that's an interesting outfit or whatever it may be. So that was something that I noticed like even before I moved here, like the fashion trends are so different. And what it really comes down to, I think, is out here, it's just so much slower to pick up on the trends because the trends are starting in like New York and California, like LA. And then I think they slowly trickle their way into the middle of the United States. That's just what I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, especially like small towns, it takes a lot longer for like trends and things to come. And I grew up in a big city, so Tucson is actually pretty big. I'm coming to terms with it. Midwest culture is lots of small towns, and I do enjoy that. I do, however, think about the people who live in those small towns and never leave. Like, what kind of life is that, or like what kind of experience is that? Like, not in a bad way, I just don't really know what that would be like to grow up in the same, like, I don't know how many acres, but you know what I mean, like to grow up in the same small town, like with like 5,000 people or less or 10,000 people or less. Like, you would have to know every single person in that town, right? So I don't know, I think that's really interesting, and I think small towns are so much more prevalent in the Midwest. And something that I noticed about the Midwest as well is people here are so much more like willing to help or willing to lend a hand or just like be a neighbor, which isn't necessarily something that I experienced a ton in Tucson. And I think that that also comes down to like big city priorities, big city mindset, which is like so much more focused on yourself and your family and less on your neighbors and your neighbor's neighbor, you know what I mean? Like, we talked to our neighbor. She mowed half of our lawn when she found out that Daniel was sick, and like, that is absolutely unheard of. I've never ever experienced somebody doing something that kind. And she was like, oh, it's no big deal, like, let me know if you want me to do it again next week. And I was like, okay. So I don't know, it's just really cool that people are so giving and like caring and willing to do that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's really like Midwest culture or if that's like smaller town culture. I think it probably more so to do with small town culture. Although Daniel doesn't think that Columbia is a small town. I think there's like 100,000 people here, which like on the grand scheme of things, like that's not a small town, but compared to Tucson where it's like 500,000 to 1 million people, this is tiny. So that's interesting. Like, people here are just like very nice, but I think that that's also like under a veil. Like, they're nice to your face maybe, and then like you turn around and they're like, who's that girl? You know what I mean? And like in big towns, they'll do that to your face. Like, they'll just be rude to you to your face, and like, it's a lot easier to cope with that way. You're not really thinking about what they're gonna say when you leave, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that necessarily, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've noticed. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanna say about that. I mean, I don't hate it. It's definitely nice. It's definitely a change of pace. And I do crave like the big city stuff, but at the same time, it's nice to be out and away. And I feel like it would be more fun to travel to cities now that I don't live in one, because when I would travel to cities before, like when I went to Europe, I went to Paris, and like, it was cool. I always wanted to go to Paris, but like, it just didn't feel that cool because I was going from a city to another city. And obviously Paris is like way cooler than Tucson, but you know what I mean? So I feel like when I was in Tucson, I would want to escape to the countryside. Whereas now that I'm here, I think that going to Paris or Milan or Florence or insert big city here would be more interesting because it's not what I'm constantly surrounded by, you know? All right, you guys, that is going to be the end of this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me inside for once. We've been hanging out outside so much, so it was nice to just like sit back and chill. Like, sit back in my little chair. You know what is so funny? I told Daniel that I wanted to replace our dining room table with like a round one, and he goes, okay, we can replace it, but no basket weaving. And I was like, what? because like all the furniture that I've bought lately has had like rattan or like wicker elements in it. So he's like, no basket weaving, please. He's like, we need solid wood for it to be extra sturdy. And I was like, okay, fine. No more basket weaving furniture. Okay, so anyway, if you want to check out Bright Cellars, you can head down to the link in the description box below and take your quiz to figure out what your wine selections are. That'll give you 50% off your first box of 6 wines. I love them. This was so fun. I'm really excited to try the rest of these wines because it feels like I went to a fine dining restaurant and I was like, I like this and this and this. And then they brought me 4 options and they were like, here you go, try them, what do you think? Like that's exactly what this feels like. And I worked in a wine bar, so I would know. I'm just kidding. But okay, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.